spread that out across an entire economy, and you get an economy that doesn't work anymore, where nothing is as good as it used to be. And you called that shrinkflation, and that's kind of what it is. It's the quality and quantity that you get diminishing, even though maybe the packaging is the same. They call it the same thing. They charge you the same amount, but what you get is dramatically less good than what you used to get. And so once you have a whole society where that kind of a dynamic is in place, life gets harder, people get more unhappy, there's civil unrest, there's massive mistrust. And that's kind of where we are right now, right?
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty in Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for August 4th through August 11th, 2025, while supplies last. First this week, backdated 1-ounce Canadian silver maples are just $2.89 over spot, the lowest premium we've seen on maples in years. Next, backdated 1/10-ounce Platinum Britannia are only $34 over melt per coin. Backdated gold 1-ounce Britannia are just $59 over spot per ounce. And finally, 100-ounce PAMP Silver Bars are only $1.89 over spot per ounce. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty in Finance. We're delighted to have this widely followed returning guest, John Rubino, the former founder of DollarCollapse.com, now the founder of his own Substack. He's going to tell us more about that. Joins us again. Today is Wednesday, August 6th, 2025. John, thanks for coming back on Liberty in Finance.
Hey, Duncan, good to talk to you again.
We're always glad to have you. One of the comments that I agree wholeheartedly with that a lot of our commenters under your videos will put is that how clearly you can explain things in terms that everyone can understand, and how, calmly and positively you approach things that are frankly quite serious in many of our lives, things that are happening in the world. And that helps us all to just calm down and think about them in a way that may be constructive and actionable, rather than feeling paralyzed by David against Goliath or Don Quixote against the windmills, or something where we just feel outmatched by all these powers that be and these mysterious things that are going on in the world. And you help us to think, well, you can take these steps. And frankly, we were just talking, you and I, about our slogan here, our motto, prepare to survive and thrive. It's those actionable preparedness steps that people can take that will help to benefit their direct family, their children, their grandchildren, their communities. You just penned an article that I read with interest this week, and it was about royalty companies and streaming companies swinging for the fences. Can you talk about what you meant by swinging for the fences and how you see that turning into actionable intel that ordinary people should be considering as the precious metals market heats up, and as does the natural resource investing space?
Sure. Well, gold has had a great couple of years, but the mining stocks, in other words, the whole ecosystem of gold-related equities that we can invest in, hadn't really kept up with gold for the longest time. People were getting really frustrated. When are the miners going to take off like they're supposed to? And that finally started to happen just lately. And one of the reasons that it's happening is that, gold is up $1,000 an ounce over the past 12 months. And that is changing the dynamics of the mining industry dramatically, because all of a sudden these guys are getting 30% more for each ounce of gold that they're selling. That means their cash flow is going through the roof, and their earnings are spectacular. And for at least the well-run companies in the mining space, this is a very good time in which they're making lots of money, and then they are deciding what to do with all that money. And in the subcategory of miners, which is the royalty streaming companies, something really interesting is happening, because they're kind of financiers. They cut deals in which they finance the startup of a gold mine or a silver mine, let's say. And in return for that startup capital, they get either a big cut of the proceeds of that mine, or a small cut, but significant for the financier, or they get actual gold and silver ounces sent their way. And this is they're making tons of money right now. A lot of these guys are making, $2,500 per ounce of gold that they've got coming in. So they're making lots of money, but they've been pretty conservative as a group about spending that money up until lately. And suddenly some big deals are getting done. One royalty company just bought another for $3.5 billion and then turned right around and threw another $1 billion at a single royalty stream. And that's a sign that the bigger companies in the royalty space now have so much money coming in that they're going to start putting that money to work, in part by buying each other out. So we're going to see an M&A boom in the royalty space. And that's a sign that you can hold the big guys, but you want to be buying the smaller takeover candidates in this space. And this is the kind of thing that is kind of inside baseball, but you can make a lot of money when you're in the right place and right time in this kind of a situation. And we're there now for the mining stocks. So this is the time when the gold bugs of the world who actually buy mining stocks really see a dramatic increase in their net worth. And I tell you what, it's been a long wait. It's been since 2015 since there was a really good stretch in the precious metals mining market where you can make a lot of money. And it seems like we're back there now. So yeah, I think we've waited long enough and we should be rewarded for that long wait.
One of the things that has been impressed on us by those representatives of my royalty and streaming companies, and Rick Rule has kind of educated our viewers and myself about those, is the type of rewarding multiples that investors can enjoy in the right part of a rising bull market by being owners of and shareholders of royalty and streaming companies. Do you have any comments on the leverage that provides you in a rising gold and silver market relative to the metals themselves?
Well, yeah, what the royalty and companies and streamers do, they cut deals in which they get either the proceeds, a small part of the proceeds of a mine, or they actually get the metal itself, some part of what the mine produces, at a fixed price. Usually it's, some small percentage of the spot price. So that means when the spot price of metal goes up, they've got all these deals in place that are paying them a ton of money. And that's massive financial leverage there. So that the further up gold and silver go, the more money that these guys make, only they make a bigger percentage in terms of their own previous earnings. Their earnings grow faster than the price of gold and silver. So, what's happening right now, this is earnings month for a lot of these guys. And so they're reporting all over the place, and the numbers are just phenomenal with the reporting. They're seeing record cash flow, and they're raising their dividends, and they're buying back stock, and now they're going out and buying each other. So this is it's a really fun time to be in a space like this. And you hope that you got yourself positioned previously, but if you haven't, there's still room to be buying the juniors in this space and riding them up until they get bought out. But yeah, this is, first of all, it's a lot of fun. Second of all, it's vindication, because people have waited a long time in this space for this kind of a market to really get going. And third, it's fascinating from a theoretical standpoint, because we're kind of towards the end of the fiat money, fiat currency experiment. And we're headed for the final crisis, the crack-up boom, whatever you want to call it, and then the monetary reset. And the absolute best place to be positioned in that 3 or 4 or 5 year stretch that we're heading into is mining stocks, because they're the guys with the leverage who make out when you've got kind of a financial crisis that sends the currency down and precious metals up. So it's just nice to be here finally. It was a very long, hard wait. But as is normal in life, things take a lot longer than you hope they will and you expect they will. But the right things do eventually happen.
That's the next thing I wanted to talk with you about. Another article that you wrote recently, it was actually, you said, from the archives. Are we really this stupid, talking about the pernicious effects of inflation, and then hiding of inflation, denying of inflation, and worst of all, government price controls, government centralized control over anything that distorts reality and distorts good decision making. But it has to do with something that you just mentioned and that we've talked about several times together, and that is the importance of the freedom of ordinary people to make decisions based on the truth that affects their lives, and companies to make decisions based on the truth that affects the viability of their company going forward. But we've had this era of destruction of the currency, destruction of the purchasing power of the currency through intentional policy of those at the helms of power, and then the not admitting it, not talking about that itself as what it is that causes a whole host of other problems, but then talking about how are they? Oh, it's corporate greed, or oh, it's this or that other reason, and prices are going up, and then coming out with this proposal that you'll tell us about, and you did in your article about the surprising popularity of government price controls. And I'll let you lay that out there first, but the question I'm going to get around to later is, how is government price fixing possibly just one of the most egregious examples of shrinkflation on steroids? Because we've already been dealing with shrinkflation, where companies are trying to hide and hide and hide from consumers the fact that you're getting less and less for spending the same amount. But this is just going to drive, it can be dangerous, the outcomes of this kind of a policy. I'll let you go ahead and lay out your thesis about government price fixing and how shocking it is that it's popular.
That's, part of the kind of common way that these things play out is that things start to spin out of control, and then governments intervene with all kinds of crazy policies that you'd never see in normal times. But in a crisis, you tend to see these things like wage and price controls and capital controls, where they won't let you move your money, or banking bail-ins, which is something that they've been talking about for a while, where if your bank gets in trouble, the government doesn't bail the bank out. It takes your deposit and uses that to bail the bank out. But remember back in 2022, that's when we had the big burst of inflation, right? That's when inflation was like 8.7% officially, and much higher in reality. Then the politicians started talking about price gouging. And the most popular part of Kamala Harris's platform in the last election was she was going to crack down on price gougers. Now that is the early phase of the marketing for price controls. When they say, oh, there's these specific people who are out there and they have market pricing power and they're raising prices and they're the ones who are making your life so hard. But we're going to crack down on them and we're going to fine them, or we're going to limit the price that they're allowed to charge. And so it comes into back to examples. Joseph Biden in many interviews was up at the podium saying, it's corporate greed, it's corporate greed. We also had George W. Bush saying, we're going to put a hotline. We're establishing a telephone hotline to the White House where you can call in and you can report price gouging. You can report where they're charging too much for gasoline or other things. And that way you can have a voice and you can actually be making a difference for your country. And we're helping you do it. Go ahead. Yeah. See, that's the kind of thing that corrupt governments tell to ignorant people about how they're trying to help them. And then people who aren't, who don't have a sense of financial history or anything and don't know that stuff has been tried 100 times and never worked, and they buy it. And so you can be a kind of a popular politician running on a platform of price controls, and that's why it actually gets enacted once in a while. But here's why it doesn't work. Because a thing, whatever you buy, isn't just a single thing. It's actually a whole bunch of things combined to make a product. And I think in the article that you referenced, the example I used was a tonsillectomy, which they still apparently do. I was using it as some example from the distant past, but apparently that's still in operation. But a tonsillectomy isn't a single thing. It's, how many nights you're going to stay in your hospital room and what kind of anesthesia you're going to use and how many nurses are going to be on call in case anything happens, and a bunch of other things. Many, many things go into this procedure, which a hospital then prices. Well, if the government comes out and says, well, from now on, tonsillectomies are $15,000 max. Well, the hospital is faced with rising costs in that kind of an environment for all its inputs. So it looks at that tonsillectomy and goes, okay, well, we'll cut out one of the nurses, we'll use the cheaper anesthesia, and we'll kick the patient out a day early from the hospital room, and we'll do a bunch of other things that save us money. And that dramatically impairs the experience and maybe the safety of the patient who gets that tonsillectomy. So now spread that out across an entire economy, and you get an economy that doesn't work anymore, where nothing is as good as it used to be. And you called that shrinkflation, and that's kind of what it is. It's the quality and quantity that you get diminishing, even though maybe the packaging is the same. They call it the same thing. They charge you the same amount, but what you get is dramatically less good than what you used to get. And so once you have a whole society where that kind of a dynamic is in place, life gets harder. People get more unhappy. There's civil unrest. There's massive mistrust. And that's kind of where we are right now, right? We've seen trust in the system diminish for various reasons. I mean, the pandemic was one big part of it. The Ukraine war was another. Inflation was another. It goes on and on. Oh, the fact that they ran a dementia patient for president and lied about it. You know, different people got lied about or figured out they were being lied to about different things, because very few people are paying attention to the whole spectrum of stuff the government's doing. But all you need to know is that you've been lied to one time, and then you don't trust the establishment anymore. And so everybody in the U.S. has been lied to at least one time that they know of. So this thing called the trust horizon is shrinking dramatically. You know, it used to be that we trusted the World Health Organization and the United Nations and the State Department and the military and the public health authorities. We trusted them to take care of us. Now, most people don't trust any of those guys anymore. And, you know, maybe...
And the mainstream media to report on it.
Oh, the mainstream media. Yeah, I mean, the big media outlets now, with the exception of Fox, that's the only one that's still holding up. But all the rest of big media is just imploding. You know, CNN and MSNBC, they're being sold off for scraps, you know, and they're just going to cease to exist, very possibly, in the near future. And the reason for that is that they've been establishment mouthpieces for the past decade. They've been lying or just reading the script the CIA or whoever handed them. And now we all kind of know that. You know, they've lied about so many things that, like I said, everybody knows they've been lied to at least once about one of those things, and nobody trusts them anymore. So yeah, that it's possible that the biggest institution in this conversation is the monetary authorities, because they're running the currency. And if we don't trust anybody anymore, obviously that includes the Federal Reserve. We don't trust them to maintain the value of the dollar anymore. And people they're not watching CNN anymore. They're not watching MSNBC. They're refusing to take vaccines, and they don't want to hold the currency as much as they used to. So that cash under their mattress, they're spending on real stuff. The bond funds that they used to own, they're dumping. And they're switching to, you know, tech stocks, unfortunately, and gold miners if they're smart. But it's a process now in the financial markets of money moving out of financial assets and into real things. So, you know, the price of farmland is up, and, you know, you've seen Bill Gates, which is another reason not to trust him. He's buying more farmland than any other individual has ever owned. What's he going to do with that? It won't be something good, I don't think. So yeah, we're seeing a system in which people give up on the authorities that they used to trust and are looking elsewhere, probably much closer to home. For, you know, speaking of Bill Gates and a lack of trust, did you see the story about the new coating that he is responsible for, that they're allowed to put on organic apples? Now, you go to Costco or someplace, you buy organic apples, and they're going to have this coating that is a fungicide and maybe carcinogenic on those apples. But somehow, some way, Bill Gates was able to wrangle a designation of organic still. And that's in the press now. People are starting to see it. And I think that just reinforces at this point the mistrust that people have for the big establishment entities, and anyhow, it leads back to the financial crisis that's coming, because if people don't trust the currency, they tend to swap out of it as soon as they get some currency, and they buy real stuff. So gold, silver, farmland, oil wells, uranium mines, all of these things that governments can't just create more out of thin air, those things are going up, and they're going up dramatically. So we're seeing bull markets in the commodity space now. And a big part of that is that we just don't trust our bond funds and our bank stocks and our cash anymore. We got to do something with it. So we're looking at things that governments cannot inflate away.
John, you have a raft of articles that you've written, and all of them come back with actionable steps that ordinary people can do. Most of those are on your Substack. How can people get connected in, and how can they take advantage of those? And is there a free portion outside the paywall?
Well, yeah, the Substack is at rubino.substack.com, and it's a newsletter that is basically aimed at finding actionable advice for all this stuff. Because, there's an awful lot we should be doing to prepare for this. And finances and investing, that's part of it, but it's not the only part. You got to maintain your health. And that's not so easy when everybody's lying to you about what you should be doing. And you've got to be developing skills that are going to be useful when things really get crazy. So the whole skill stacking thing is absolutely crucial. And, the mainstream media doesn't advise you to learn how to do electrician stuff or how to work on a car or anything. They find that beneath them, the reporters at CNN and MSNBC. So, you've kind of got to do this stuff on your own. But the bright side is that there's lots of resources out there. There are a lot of ways to develop the skills that you need and the lifestyle choices and everything that will give you resilience in the face of what is going to be a very chaotic time financially and otherwise. So it's turning out to be a lot of fun to look this stuff up, because this, most of what I'm covering in this newsletter is stuff that I would be looking up for myself if I was just a retired guy trying to figure out how to get through the next 15 years. So there's a lot of advantages for me in running a newsletter like this, because it's forcing me to learn things that maybe I would have been too lazy to learn otherwise.
That's the advantage that I have here in this chair as the founder of Liberty and Finance, formerly Reluctant Preppers, because I get to be here on the part of everyman and learning myself. I'm sure I learn as much or more as anyone does here from the guests that we have on, such as yourself. Folks, if you don't want to miss a single episode with John Rubino here on Liberty and Finance, make sure you're on our free mailing list by just going to our website, libertyandfinance.com, put in your email address, click submit. Make sure you confirm on the confirming email so that you're really opted into the list. It doesn't get you all the way in until you just confirm. It doesn't cost anything, and we don't share your email address with anybody. It's completely private, and you won't miss a single interview with John. But also go check out his Substack and see the information that he's got there. I think you'll find it compelling and positive, constructive, actionable, down to earth, and just really keeping you on the what can I do, rather than just wringing hands about what are we facing, the troubles that are brewing, but what can we do about it? John, we're just so grateful, as always, for your presence here with our subscribers and viewers on Liberty and Finance.
Thanks, Ted, again. Talk to you soon.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for August 4th through August 11th, 2025, while supplies last. First this week, backdated 1-ounce Canadian silver maples are just $2.89 over spot, the lowest premium we've seen on maples in years. Next, backdated 1/10-ounce Platinum Britannia are only $34 over melt per coin. Backdated gold 1-ounce Britannia are just $59 over spot per ounce. And finally, 100-ounce PAMP Silver Bars are only $1.89 over spot per ounce. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.